Alrighty, guys, welcome to our markups for the 14th of August on a Monday. A lot of things have been happening. The price action has not been the best recently, the last week and early today. We did get some trading opportunities, and we'll talk about it. But very interesting price action, and like I always say, structure just trumps everything, right? So if you just followed structure, the highs, the weak highs, the strong highs, the weak lows, the strong lows, you will be profitable if you just use structure as your guide. So let's look at it on a on a Monday. We're looking at the daily. Please pardon all these markings. They'll become clear on the lower time frames. Massive push. We are in pullback. Obviously, we had a reaction and a corrective pullback, right? But for the last that many days, right? So since the whole of last week till today even, the price has been really doing nothing, right? So it's been stuck in a range, just sweeping the highs and the lows. And when it's sweeping the highs and the lows and you're stuck in a range like that, ideally you want to stay away, right? But there could be opportunities. But it's a little tricky because if the internal ranges are higher, you could definitely sell from the top of the range and buy from the bottom of the ranges. But in this case, it's a little tricky to get involved. So let's look at the 4H. What is the 4H telling us? And let's look at the recent price action, right? Okay. So 4H, we had the boss over here. If you remember, we've talked extensively about the corrective pullback, right? A massive impulse and a corrective pullback, broke structure. You have your high, obviously strong high over here. And then whenever the strong high over here, the pullback, or it could just run the daily low and completely change the structure, right? So 4H strong high, break of structure. We are waiting for the pullback. The pullback hasn't started. So if you look at this little premium discount range that I've drawn, this 4H POI, the price after it broke really hasn't done a pullback. So it could do a pullback and then go down, or it could just test the strong low on the daily and could break that and then start a pullback. But then once the daily breaks, this is your daily strong and the entire trend is now bearish, right? So let's just focus on internal price action here. What's going on? So recently, and we'll just focus here, right? The last week, but let me just talk about on this side as well. These have been your 1H internal 1H bosses, right? Internal bosses. So you had a push up, and then you had a massive impulse. Once you had that massive impulse into the 4H extreme, and this is why you're marking your structure and your zones, extreme zones, fairly carefully, because those are the places you will get the biggest reaction. Obviously, it depends on your appetite. If you want to go put a risk entry on those POIs or wait for more confirmation within it. If you are like me, I do a mixed bag. Sometimes if I really like the POI, I will put a risk entry in there if the entire story makes sense. But typically I'll wait for a confirmation on a higher time frame, so like a 15-minute time frame. I would peek into 5-minute if the confirmations are coming early, but if 5-minute is not clear, I wouldn't touch 5-minute and just wait for 15-minute, even if it means I don't get involved in a trade, because protecting capital and being consistent should be your number one priority, right? If you are consistent on the 5-minute, that's great, and you're profitable, that's just fantastic. But I know for myself, consistency over time, especially with so many things ongoing, like a pretty easy approach to trading in 15 minutes just gives me that. So once we came into the 4H extreme, we had a chalk, right? So right there, that's a 4H chalk, which means it's a 1H IBOS. Once we had the 4H chalk, this would be the demand that you're looking at, right? So from this candle to this candle, so if I were to draw it right here, this would be the demand. And again, like I said, right, it tapped and went up. You could have put a risk entry, but for me, there was no entry there. Then it came back into the EQ of this impulse, right, of this range right here, and then shot up again, which gives us another break of structure, chalk, and then we have another 4H, goes up, does not break, and falls back down. This is your internal 4H, right? Goes up, does not break again, comes down, sweeps the entire thing, drops heavily, does not break anything above, and then after collecting all the liquidity, you're thinking the price is ready to go down, right? So on the 1H, let's look at 1H. There, right? So 4H chalk is basically a 1H internal boss, right? So this is where your chalks happen. So like I was saying, price never really broke out of the highs, right? It never took out any of the highs. It never closed strongly above this peak here. And your internal 4H internal strong is up here, which is also your 1H swing high, right? So if this is strong, price never closed above any of these highs. During the news, it swept all the liquidity and retraced back heavily, right? Leaving us a 1H POI behind us. And then not only that, it went all the way down, gave us a 4H chalk, which is why I had that thing drawn. And then it gave us your internal breaks of structure, right? Because we have a candle body close. It came into this little demand zone. I mean, it is a valid demand zone, right? It went up, pulled down, went up, responsible break of structure, and you had the flips. But in this case, I would have called out the extreme at this point in time. But there was a reaction. So once the reaction happened, I looked to the left. Is it a valid demand zone? Yes, it is a valid demand zone. And on the 1H, what did it give us? It gave us a chalk over here, and that would have been the POI. But price shot up, went all the way up into the EQ of this leg right here. Yes, this leg. And then it had a strong impulse pushback. We had a chalk, so once we had a chalk, this would have been our POI at that point in time, and we could have looked at some entries on the lower time frame on this wick. And let me just jump down to see if there was any entry. For me, no, because it never took out any strong liquidity, and yeah, it did not sweep anything, and it did have the chalk, but price never pulled up. So yeah, nothing for me there. So we'll look at 1 hour again. Price fell down all the way. So my last 1H boss was here, right? I'm talking about internal structure, right? So price went up. Let me just pull this down a little bit. Went up, came down, had a reaction, came down. Gave us a chalk at this point in time, went all the way up, tapped over here into this 1H that I had marked on the wick, and then had an aggressive fall. Once it had an aggressive fall, it also gave me a chalk from this high all the way here, and then we had that POI marked, that candle. And once it really broke, which meant it broke all the internal structure, so it had a 1H IBOS, it had an internal of the internal IBOS, and then our after our 1H internal break of structure, this is our 1H internal strong. So we have pretty much everything aligned, yes? So we have your strong high 1H swing, which is also the 4H internal strong. We have the 1H internal strong here because this was an internal break of structure. Price went aggressively down. We knew it was weak, this swing leg on the 1H. Price never closed below it, swept and aggressively shot up. Now, this would have been an area where you could have put a risk entry, right? But with that strong movement of price, I typically shy away from putting risk entries. If it was closer than these massive candles on the 1H, these are huge moves. We never know if the price is going to pull back all the way into the supply zone. The price could have easily pulled back into these buy to sell wicks and then further gone down. So you never know, right? Or if it's pulling up that high, it could be that it has a reaction and then it decides to switch and do a 4H leg pullback, right? Because right now we have broken the structure. We are in a bearish trend. The 4H strong is way up there, way up here, right? So it could be that price never has retraced back into the EQ even after that 4H breakup structure. So it could be that the price is ready to move up and I wasn't ready to take that risk. I was waiting for some confirmation entries here, but it was too far late in the session and it really nothing really presented itself. However, after this wick break, I was interested in buys, right? Because if I were to look at the 15-minute, when I saw price came in, did not close below, aggressively shot up, and then we had that aggressive demand, buyers step into the market, they took out the last supply that caused that liquidation. So for me, my entry was set up already, yes, because we had strong liquidation. We had the last supply zone that failed because buyer overpowered the sellers, and I had this zone marked out or these two candles marked out, either one of them, but price never pulled back. Once price never pulled back, it actually went into the high probability 1H supply, which in theory should hold because we are still. Our swing structure is bearish on the 1H, which is also on the 4H internal. Our swing structure on the 4H is also bearish. The only thing is we are running into a strong demand low, right? And we don't know if this is going to break or if price is just going to now start rallying up for a pullback on the 4H swing leg to start. Okay, so which is why I wasn't really interested. So if I pull back to 1 hour, it could very well be that the price gives us a 1 hour chalk. This would be a valid flip zone. Once it breaks these internal 1H internal strong and the small internal strong, you could potentially have an entry, right? Because at that point in time, when this breaks, everything below here on the smaller internal ranges of the 1H becomes strong, and then you're trading in line with the structure. So for me, if I was trading this buys, everything would have been counter, right? Because all my strong highs are over here. So I'm trading from a weak structure. But the reason why I would have entered if it presented itself is because we never closed below the weak structure on the 1H swing. It wicked back, and once it wicked back, it also had an overpowering buyers coming in, sellers taking the side seats. It destroyed that supply zone here. So on the smaller time frame, like the 15-minute, this would be the supply zone that got destroyed, and I was waiting for price to pull back to give me a quick scalp into this high probability 1/8 supply. All right. Okay, there is not a lot for me to say here outside of the fact that, look at this. It's a massive range bound. So from 2nd of August all the way down to the 14th. So for almost 2 weeks, we have been just ranging, right? There is no breakout of price on the swing structure. So it's going up, going down, going up, going down. Ideally, you want to sell from all of these extremes, and you see very nice reactions until we have that sweep of all that liquidity. And then also from the lower ends, right? You have those reactions. There would be obviously demand over here which got swept, and then you have those reactions. So I intend to keep trading in the direction of the internals because either trade in the direction of the internal and the swing, which is your most high probability trades, or trade in the direction of one trend, right? Either the swing or the internal. Just don't be part of a counter where you're trading against the swing structure, you're trading against the internal structure. Those are the lowest probabilities. Don't get caught in the middle of the either an impulse leg or the pullback leg, because price, you never know what it's going to do at that point in time unless you have a good priced area to sell, either in the premium or discount. Maybe another conference for you all to keep in mind, but do wait for those confirmation entries. You definitely could risk enter, but I would only risk enter at the extremes of my internal structure in line with my swing structure. All right, guys, that was it. A wrap for today. We'll catch you all next time. Take care. Bye now.